You won't believe what happened when Karen, our neighborhood's self-appointed boss, decided she could just sell my plane as scrap. Yeah, you heard that right, my actual plane. It all started when I noticed some strange activity around my hangar. I thought maybe someone was messing around, but I had no idea it was Karen behind it. She's the kind of person who always tries to control everything, but this time she really crossed a line. What made it worse? She had no clue that the plane is protected by a federal order, something that legally stops anyone from touching or selling it without permission. I'll be honest, when I first found out what she was doing, I was stunned. It felt like a scene out of a movie, except this was real, happening right in my backyard. The whole thing raised so many questions. How did she think she had the right to sell my property? Did she even check the rules before trying to scrap something so important? And more importantly, what was she hoping to gain from this? In this story, you'll meet me, a plane owner caught in an unbelievable situation, and Karen, the neighborhood troublemaker whose bold move shook everything up. This isn't just about a plane. It's about standing up when someone tries to take what's yours, and how sometimes the law is there to protect you in ways you might not expect. I'm about to share exactly how I found out about Karen's plan, what happened when I confronted her, and how the federal order became my unexpected shield. But the story doesn't end here. Things got complicated fast, and I wasn't prepared for what came next. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss how this all unfolds. After I realized Karen was trying to sell my plane as scrap, I had to take a step back and think about how this even happened. The plane isn't just some old junk, it's been part of my life for years. I bought it when I was younger, saved up for it, and every part of it means something to me. So to hear that Karen thought she could just do whatever she wanted with it was a shock. It turns out Karen has been causing trouble in the neighborhood for a while. She's always been quick to push her own agenda, acting like she owns the place. People whisper about how she's been trying to enforce her own rules, ignoring official ones, but this was the first time she really went too far. I started digging and found out she had been going around talking to some neighbors, trying to convince them my plane was abandoned and worthless, which wasn't true at all. I couldn't believe she was spreading rumors just to make her move. What really saved me was that federal order I mentioned, the one that protects certain aircraft from being sold or scrapped without strict permission. I didn't even know it existed until I checked. It's like a hidden rule that stops people from messing with planes like mine. But Karen clearly didn't know about it or didn't care. That made me wonder, how often do people get away with this kind of thing simply because others don't know their rights or the laws? I wanted to confront Karen directly, but I wasn't sure what I was walking into. She's known for being aggressive, and this wasn't just about a plane anymore. It was personal. On top of that, there were rumors floating around that she might have bigger plans for the area, which could put more than just my plane at risk. Every time I thought I was getting closer to the truth, something else would come up, making me question who I could really trust. The tension was building, and I knew I had to be careful. This wasn't just a fight over property, it was about standing up against someone who thought rules didn't apply to her. What happened next changed everything, but you'll have to keep watching to find out. As I started to piece everything together, I realized this wasn't just about Karen trying to sell my plane. There were layers beneath her actions that made the whole situation even more complicated. For one, Karen had recently pushed for changes in our neighborhood rules that, if passed, could give her more control over property, including mine. It felt like she was slowly trying to take over, and my plane just happened to be the first target in her bigger plan. I talked to some neighbors who had their own stories about Karen. Some were scared to speak up because she's pretty intimidating, and others had seen her push boundaries before, but no one expected her to go this far. One neighbor mentioned she'd even tried to block a local park renovation project just because it didn't fit her idea of how the community should look. It was clear Karen wasn't just meddling in my life, she was trying to reshape the whole neighborhood in her image. Meanwhile, the federal order protecting my plane kept coming up in my mind. It's a powerful piece of legislation that many people don't know about. It's meant to protect historic or important aircraft from being destroyed or sold without proper authorization. The fact that Karen didn't know or ignored this made me question how many others might be risking legal trouble without even realizing it. Could this happen to someone else? Was I just lucky? The tension with Karen grew as I tried to find ways to stop her. I reached out to legal experts and even a few local officials, hoping someone could back me up. But Karen's influence seemed to run deep, and every time I thought I was gaining ground, she'd move the goalposts. At one point, she showed up unannounced, trying to intimidate me with her authority, acting like she had the final say. That moment made it clear this was more than a property dispute. It was a battle for respect and control. As the conflict escalated, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my plane anymore. I was standing up for the rules, for fairness, and for anyone else who might face someone like Karen in their life. But how far was she willing to go? And what would I have to do to protect what's mine? The story is far from over. Things were getting more intense by the day. Karen's moves became bolder, and I could feel the pressure mounting around me like a storm about to break. One afternoon, I came home to find a notice taped to my hangar door, something about intent to remove. Abandoned property. My heart sank. It was clear Karen had somehow managed to get official-looking papers sent, trying to make it seem like my plane was up for grabs. That notice wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. I knew I had to act fast. The federal order protecting my plane was my strongest weapon, but it felt like Karen was trying to drown it out with noise and manipulation. I reached out to an aviation lawyer who confirmed what I already suspected: if Karen pushed this through, the legal battle would be messy and costly. But more than money, this was about pride and principle. The thought of losing something I'd poured years into, just because someone didn't respect the law, was unbearable. Meanwhile, the neighborhood's atmosphere had shifted. People were watching, whispering, some picking sides quietly. A few, who once avoided conflict, started asking questions. And I could sense a small but growing resistance against Karen's reign. But she wasn't backing down either. Just last week, she showed up at a community meeting, turning the room cold with her sharp words and demands. She made it clear she believed she was untouchable, like the rules didn't apply to her. That arrogance made me more determined than ever to fight back. The tension hit a boiling point one evening when Karen tried to gain access to my hangar using a key she claimed was community property. I was there waiting, the moment she tried. To push the door open, I confronted her. What happened next shook me on the neighborhood to its core. I won't spoil it here, but trust me, the showdown was nothing like I expected. The stakes were higher than ever, and the outcome could change everything. Stay with me, because the story is far from over, and it's about to get real, just when I thought things couldn't get any more intense. Something unexpected happened that changed everything. After that tense confrontation at the hangar, I discovered that Karen had secretly been in contact with a local scrap dealer. Not only that, but she was planning to bring heavy machinery to the neighborhood, equipment big enough to haul away my plane and anything else she wanted. The idea that she might actually try to physically remove my plane sent a new wave of panic through me. This wasn't just about paperwork or rumors anymore. It was becoming a full-on battle for control. But here's where it gets even more complicated. During a late-night call with my lawyer, I learned something shocking. The federal order protecting my plane wasn't as ironclad as I thought. There were loopholes and exceptions Karen might exploit if she played her cards right. It felt like a game of cat and mouse, and I suddenly realized I was running out of time to protect what was mine. Every move Karen made seemed calculated, and now I was scrambling to find the legal ground to stand on. Adding to the pressure, some neighbors who had been quietly watching now started taking Karen's side. Whether it was fear or they actually believed her version of the story, I didn't know. What I did know was that I couldn't count on the community to back me up like I hoped. The isolation made the fight feel even harder. Then came the final shock. I found out Karen had been digging into my past, trying to find something to use against me. It was clear she was willing to go beyond just the plane, looking for any weakness she could exploit. The battle had grown personal in ways I never expected. The tension was unbearable. Karen's moves were getting bolder by the hour, and the threat to my plane and everything I stood for was closer than ever. The question was, how far was she willing to go? And how much could I take before everything fell apart? The day everything came to a head was nothing like I expected. I had prepared for a long legal fight, maybe even some physical confrontation. But what happened was both intense and strangely quiet. Early that morning, just as Karen arrived with the scrap dealer and the heavy machinery, I was waiting with a small group of neighbors and a legal team. We had managed to get an emergency injunction filed, thanks to some quick work from the lawyer who dug deeper into the federal orders. Details. That order was stronger than Karen thought, explicitly protected my plane from any removal without direct federal approval, which she hadn't gotten. When Karen tried to push forward, she was stopped cold by the officers who had been called in. They reminded her of the legal protections, and the scrap dealer quickly backed off once it was clear the law was on my side. Karen's confident smirk disappeared, replaced by a mixture of frustration and disbelief. I finally felt relief flooding over. My plane was safe, and Karen's plan was officially halted. But just when I thought the story had reached its natural end, the unexpected happened. A local news crew showed up, alerted by someone who had been watching the whole drama unfold. The story blew up fast, shining a spotlight not just on my plane, but on Karen's aggressive tactics and attempts to manipulate the neighborhood. Suddenly, the tables had turned. Karen, who once seemed untouchable, was facing questions from the community and even local authorities about her actions. The final twist. As the dust settled, I found out that the federal order protecting my plane had a clause I hadn't known about. It meant the plane was now eligible for restoration grants, funding that could help me bring it back to its former glory. What started as a fight to keep it from being scrapped had become a chance to preserve its history in the end. Standing up to Karen wasn't just about saving my plane, it was about standing up for what's right and showing that no one can just take what belongs to you. But even as the neighborhood began to heal, I knew this wasn't the last time I'd face a fight like this. The story may be over for now, but the lessons I learned will stay with me forever. After the dust settled and the news coverage faded, life in the neighborhood slowly started to return to normal. Karen's bold attempts to sell my plane as scrap became a cautionary tale everyone talked about, a reminder that sometimes people will push boundaries until they're held accountable. I realized how important it is to know your rights and to stand firm, even when the odds feel stacked against you. The federal order that protected my plane wasn't just a legal tool, it was a shield that gave me the power to defend what mattered most. The restoration grants meant more than just money. They were a symbol of hope and respect for history, showing that sometimes fighting for something can lead to unexpected opportunities. I began making plans to restore the plane, not just for myself, but as a tribute to the years it had stood proud and the story it carried. It reminded me that some things aren't just objects, they hold memories, dreams, and hard work. My neighbors also learned a lot from the ordeal. Some who were hesitant at first started to speak up more, understanding that silence can sometimes let people like Karen take over. The community slowly began to come together, finding strength in unity instead of fear. That shift gave me hope that we could keep the neighborhood a place where respect and fairness mattered. Looking back, I realized this story was bigger than just a plain or one person's stubbornness. It was about standing up for what's right. Knowing the law can protect you and finding courage when it feels like you're facing the world alone. If you ever find yourself in a fight like this, remember, you're not powerless. There's strength in knowledge, community, and refusing to back down. Thanks for listening to this story. If you've ever faced something similar or have questions about protecting what's yours, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.